Hi, it's Mitch from Pickdawgz.com here with the free pick in the Hofstra versus South Florida college basketball matchup on Thursday, November 30th, 2023. Of course, we give out tons of free picks every day, and when you give out as many free picks as we do, you're going to like some games more than others. And to find out which games we like the best, you can find those over at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Use the discount code PICK for 15% off. We also have Dime Club and Sharp Trading Plays. These are meant for people who make big bets. Not available on the website. You got to text that number that you see on the screen. So if you make big bets, text that number. But let's get to this one. Hofstra taking on South Florida. This looks like it's going to be a good one. Hofstra 4-2 coming in. South Florida 2-2 on the season. Neither of these teams particularly good against the spread. And, South Florida, they've been on the road the entire season so far. So nothing new for them in this matchup. Hofstra comes in. They've won their last 3 games. One of them, though, against a really bad Buffalo team, then beating Wright State and High Point, who doesn't usually get a lot of recognition, but is a tough customer. You look at some of these other programs out there and some of these best players, boy, they're those High Point transfers, right? So we know that High Point certainly always has talent. They had losses to Princeton and to GW earlier this season. They also played an online game. I don't count those, and I try and exclude them from the stats when I look at those overall because they will skew your numbers. So when you see those online games in there, pull those numbers out when you're running your stats next to each other, as I hope you are doing without me saying so. I know later in the season it'll smooth out a little bit, but still some of those numbers in there, I mean, normally those online games, I've seen 150 points scored by teams in those. Anyways, we look at South Florida, and coming off a loss to Maine by 11, they were an 8-point favorite in that game. They had just beat Northern Iowa as a 2.5-point favorite by 9 in that game, losing to Central Michigan as a 17-point favorite, and beating South Carolina State. This is a tough team to figure out for South Florida. We know that there's talent on the roster. We know that they're well coached. But we know that they're also about as inconsistent as it comes. That's because their shooting is mediocre and really to the lower side of mediocre. One of the bottom half of shooting teams in the entire college basketball spectrum, shooting just 41.9% from the floor and 22% from beyond the three-point arc. That is 360th in the nation. Just does not get it done. But when we look at Hofstra, they don't defend the three particularly well, nor do they do much else defensively all that well. But teams do struggle to score overall against them. Field goal percentage just a little bit less than 40%. So that is one of the lower numbers that you see. But also, well, they haven't played all that tough a competition either. When we look at the Hofstra offense, putting it through the hoop at 49.4% of the time, and then hitting those three-pointers at 38.7%. So at South Florida, while they don't hit threes all that well, they defend the threes really well, and overall their defense is pretty strong, and they play against, like we know, tough competition. Though this year, the competition that they haven't really played that tough a competition, and they've come up, on the short end of it as gigantic favorites in a couple of games. That's what makes this game so tough to call. It's like, which South Florida is going to show up and which Hofstra is going to show up in this one. I just think, with two teams being this inconsistent, I'd rather just have the points in my back pocket in a game I'm not rushing to bet. I'm going to take South Florida and the points, and that's going to be my free pick. Of course, while you're doing your picks, putting your bets in, be sure to use our free betting tools at sportschatplace.com. They're 100% free. They'll tell you how often historically all the bets on the board today have hit. Pair them with today's odds, putting you in the most favorable bets today.